Hate speech is spreading faster and further than ever before as a result of social media user growth and the rise of populism. Both online and offline, hate speech targets people and groups based on who they are. It discriminates and infringes on individual and collective human rights. It pushes people further apart, strengthens political polarization, and undermines social cohesion. Most importantly, the reason to why we must act to address hate speech is because, to quote the United Nations Secretary General, hate speech is an alarm bell. The louder it rings, the greater the threat of genocide. It precedes and promotes violence. But first, what is hate speech? As with many contentious issues, there is no agreed upon definition. For the purpose of this course, let us use a working definition outlined in the Guide for Policymakers, published by UNESCO and the United Nations Office on Genocide Prevention, which understands hate speech as any kind of communication in speech, writing, or behavior that attacks or uses pejorative or discriminatory language with reference to a person or a group on the basis of who they are. In other words, based on their religion, ethnicity, nationality, race, color, descent, gender, or other identity factors. Perpetrators of hateful, discriminatory, and dangerous messages, often relying on conspiracy theories and other vehicles to advance their ideas, build on angst, uncertainties, insecurities, and ignorance. They provide simplistic explanations to events and situations that are complex, as is the world, and difficult to understand. They bring a false sense of control and agency and help pass responsibility by naming a scapegoat. They seek to undermine the foundations of our shared humanity, emotions and feelings such as solidarity, and fundamental freedoms such as freedom of speech and expression. And they seek to damage the fabric of our societies, including civic, physical, and digital spaces. Hateful speech manifests online and offline in multiple forms, from racism, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, gender-based hatred, anti-Muslim hatred, discrimination against indigenous groups, and persecution of vulnerable groups in their diversities. The impact of hate speech transcends the individual. It cuts across all United Nations efforts towards just, inclusive, and peaceful societies. From protection of human rights, gender equality, prevention of atrocity crimes, violent extremism, terrorism, protection of refugees and minorities, and fighting all forms of racism and discrimination. In short, hate speech is a direct threat to the achievement of the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. This is why we must act now, together. Together because hate speech is not isolated. It is a pervasive and complex and knows no border. Like all the complex problems of our century, it cannot be addressed by one actor in isolation. How can we address the problem? For us at UNESCO, our action departs from our constitutional mandate. Since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. Our leadership and key global priorities such as the protection and promotion of freedom of speech and expression, the promotion of global citizenship education, and so on. Our interventions to address hate speech are also informed by the United Nations Strategy and Plan of Action on Hate Speech, which calls on us to harness education, media, and communication to address hate speech. Furthermore, UNESCO has now approved the revision of a key normative instrument, which will also provide the basis for our continuous engagement on this issue now and into the futures. The revised 1974 recommendation concerning education for international understanding, cooperation and peace, and education relating to human rights and fundamental freedoms will provide renewed relevance and mechanisms necessary for UNESCO and member states to address contemporary challenges to peace, including hate speech. Practically, this means strengthening the capacity of education systems, including institutions and educators, to provide safe and inclusive learning environments that are free from hate and prejudice, respectful of human rights and supportive of diverse cultures, identities and beliefs. It means strengthening the capacities of teachers and other education actors. It means reimagining curricula and pedagogies to actively address all forms of intolerance, discrimination and hate, including harassment and violence, while simultaneously paving the way for justice and equity through promoting global citizenship education. Most importantly, it also means enhancing the capacity of media and information literacy. MIL. MIL can educate people to think critically about information and the responsible use of digital tools, enabling them to make informed choices on how they participate in freedom of expression, dialogue, peace building, equality, and access to information. In summary, it means convening diverse actors, developing global guidance, strengthening capacities of member states, and advocating for just, peaceful, and inclusive societies free of hate speech. These are the principles that should guide our action. Hate speech is on the rise, and incidents of violence preceded or incited by hate speech are equally on the rise. This increase is exacerbated by the unraveling digital revolution, including the use of artificial intelligence. Hate speech impacts us all, individually and collectively, and this work of prevention to promote media and information literacy and digital citizenship has never been so important. I want to conclude with a caution. Preventing hate speech is not restricting freedom of speech. Halting hate speech cannot be done at the expense of any human rights, or else our actions will strengthen the very problem we're trying to address. To counter hate speech, we need more speech, not less speech. And above all, we need a new generation of digital citizens empowered to recognize, reject, and stand against hate speech. I thank you, and I hope you enjoy the course.